Hi, Creative Writing class. Today I have some ideas for you on what you can do to find your better voice when you're writing. This over this week and next week, which will be Thanksgiving. I know the COVID has hurt our in-person abilities, but we'll still do lots of work with your help at home, okay? Here is a primary idea, and I've got to admit this one worked for me. I didn't believe it at the beginning, but this is a great idea. Copy a favorite writer of yours. Literally retype word for word an entire passage. Now you ask, why do I do this? Retype word for word. There's a very simple reason. As you type it, you will start picking up on the techniques that the writer is using. How are they describing a character? What are their favorite words? What words are they not using? Okay? Give it a try. I did this with Ian Fleming, who wrote the James Bond books. And I just did about a chapter of it, and I couldn't believe what I was learning about how he created characters. Also, how he paused and spaced out the timing in his sentences through the commas and the periods. You learn a lot about it when you type that you don't get when you read. And this helps you in another idea, which is reading with a writer's eye. You're not reading to enjoy the book, although that will happen. You are reading a good author to learn how they develop characters, how they develop conflict, how they show what is allowed and what isn't allowed in this society that they're writing about. It's not just reading for enjoyment. You're reading for a purpose to glean information about how the writer is building their story. And oftentimes it's easier to see in one of the earlier books because they don't hide their technique as well. Now, if you read Dale Brown, he doesn't hide anything. So by page 50 or 60 or 70, you've already got pretty much figured out who the killer was. And now you're just trying to figure out how he's going to reveal the information. Ooh, you're slamming Dale Brown. Yeah, I am. It's what I do. Okay? I think he is easier to pick apart than other people, say like a Raymond Chandler or a Dashiell Hammett, or even Lawrence Block, who was a master at hiding it. I only caught it once in about 13 books with Lawrence Block. But you pick a writer that you enjoy and retype everything word for word, and then you read a book with the idea of trying to discover how they're writing. And this allows you to see it up here. Then you can read the book with the writer's eye, not as being entertained eye. Now, having said all of that, there's a book that I would like for you to get, or at least look at. This is at every Barnes & Noble I've ever seen. It's called The Novel and Short Story Writers Market. Now, this is my copy from 2013, and it has inside here all the people, literary agents, magazines, small circulation, online markets, consumer magazine, book publishers, contests and awards that you can apply for, conferences, workshops. But at the beginning, they usually have stories about how to write better. For example, this one, the 10 writing pitfalls and how to beat them. For example, excuse number 1, I can't tell which one of my ideas is the best-selling one. That's okay, we don't know which one it's going to be either. You write them all. You write as many as you can, as deeply as you can, and you let the market figure out which one's a winner. Think about The Whale. Fellow tried to do a novel where half the novel's fiction and then every other chapter introduced factual information about what his fictional account was about. Failed miserably, sold less than 100 copies until the publisher took The Whale and renamed it Moby Dick. Millions of copies later, and it's one of the great American novels. Number 2, writing chapter 2 seems wickedly intimidating. You have this great idea for chapter 1, then you run out of great ideas, and now the work of writing comes in. I've had that too, which is why on my completed novel, I started writing with the best action scene I could think of, my hero getting stabbed. And then I wrote after that and before that and fleshed out the book. But I wanted to get the decisive scene down, and that told me a lot about my character, how he would handle himself in adversity. And then I was able to develop him for the rest of the book. Okay? So you don't have to write in order, chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3. That can seem a bit daunting. Write where you want to start and then flesh out. Okay? And here's my favorite. This all made sense 100 pages ago. Now I don't know what I'm talking about. Answer. Every writer in history has had to deal with the psychological roller coaster that is writing, whether it's a 2,000-word short story or a multi-book series. You're going to have these down times where you don't believe in yourself and you just feel tired. Well, here's the solution. CITC. Cheeks in the chair. I hate to say it, but that's the best way to solve that problem where you don't feel motivated. You have to sit there and work. Writing is work. A lot of art is not artistic inspiration. That gets you going. It's artistic perspiration that gets it finished and makes the difference between a successful artist and an artist who isn't going anywhere. Put your cheeks in a chair and write. And watch that cursor on your screen going. And if it's blinking for too long, just start writing something. Anything. I did an exercise the other day with a student where he had to start writing and I had to start writing, and he didn't write anything for about 5 minutes. So I just started writing about this ancient old tree that looked diseased and broken, and then I said at the end, the tree shook like a dog, its diseased leaves fell off, and the tree wandered off into the forest to find a better spot of sun. And we all said, well, that's ridiculous, that's silly. Sounds like a passage straight out of a Harry Potter novel. And that gives me an idea that maybe I have some fantasy world in me that's waiting to burst out. And I was able to go back to writing my high fantasy series because I got that little bit of absurd creation out of the way, but it stirred my mind to think in the right way. And that was just a CITC moment, cheeks in the chair moment, where I had to write something because my student wasn't. So I just started writing things. I wrote it out in longhand on a piece of paper. Maybe you want to type it. Maybe you want to do notes on your phone. It doesn't matter. Get something down on the paper. No excuses allowed. Remember, this could be a very profitable hobby. Very few people make money solely by writing. But how many people do you know actually make money off of their hobbies? Not many. And if you become a good enough writer that you can start selling your work, it will sell because people see the attention to detail that you're doing. They see that you've gone through these steps to make yourself a better writer. Okay? Now, when you're submitting, it's a little bit early to think of submitting. It's never too early to think of submitting. Think of the type of story that you like to write. Maybe you like to write nonfiction. Think about the things you know and that you would like to write about. Those will make good first articles. Maybe you can sell them to a local newspaper. Maybe you can go into their Sunday section. Maybe you just get credit for the first one. And then they realize, hey, we've gotten some response from this. Well, this is the sort of thing that will make you a better writer, and nothing will tell you whether or not you're a good enough writer than rejection. And everybody goes, I don't want to be rejected. I don't either. It hurts. But if you have the right mindset, rejection will tell you exactly what the market is looking for, because it'll be telling you that you didn't meet the expectations. And you realize the way you're writing or what you wrote about isn't what the market is looking for. That is a handy piece of information to know right there. So let's get down to it. I'm going to get this book open, and I'm going to bring a different viewpoint to our camera here. My apologies for the finger in the way. I'm going to open to a random literary magazine, and let's see what they need, okay? They say that they accept short fiction, send complete manuscript with a cover letter. Cover letter? A cover letter is your chance to sell what you're writing. Dear, and don't say editor or to whom it may concern, address it to a specific person. But I don't know. Here on this same thing, the Willow Review, contact Michael Latza, editor. So, dear Michael Latza, don't say Mr. or Ms. or Mrs. You might assume something and you don't want to do that. So, dear Michael Latza, and now you find out what he says here. He says, we have no preferences as to form, style, or subject as long as each poem stands on its own as art and communicates ideas. So, if you're writing a short story, should you be submitting it to this? No, because it's poetry only. Now you know if you don't have a poem, Willow Review is out. Maybe something different. Experimental humor, satire, literary, mainstream, regional translations. We generally avoid genre literature, but maintain no formal restrictions on style or subject matter. No romance or children's work. So if you've got a romance piece or a kid's piece, you don't submit to this one. It says it's established in 1989, has a circulation of 1,000. Even tells you that you get copies of the journal. That's your payment. You get copies. But they also have a prize for poetry. Oh, poetry again. $1,000 award for each. Wow. If you write poetry, that's not a bad way to go. And there's plenty of others that do this for short stories. The Raven Chronicles. What do you think that's going to be about? Transcultural art, literature, and the spoken word. No romance, fantasy, mystery, or detective. No romance, fantasy, mystery, or detective. So they want hard-boiled, real-life stuff. So if you're doing a fantasy book, don't submit here. They tell you, they say, tips, look for clean, direct language written from the heart and experimental writing. Read a sample copy or look at Before Columbus anthologies. You see, they even tell you where to find out. You can read their stuff to find out what they've been accepting, and that tells you whether you're on the mark or not. You can start submitting your work, but you need to find your voice, and we also need to learn how to make your voice cleaner and more concise. And that is the art of editing, which we're going to be covering in our next class or video. And in order to edit, we need things down on paper. As one editor told me when I was having trouble, I can edit anything except for an empty sheet of paper. So make sure you're writing something, okay, folks? We're going to end it right here with the idea of copying a favorite writer's work, retype it word for word so that you can get the feel of how they made it. And then you can read the rest of his work with a writer's eye, not a reader's eye. You're not being entertained. You are pulling information on how they wrote this, okay? And the book, the short story, the novel and short story writers market, which has a lot of good articles at the beginning on how to write and, just as importantly, how not to write. All right, everybody, I will see you back after Thanksgiving, either in person or in another video, and maybe we can do something on Discord, which is one of my favorite places to do video conferencing. So we'll start arranging that, but in the meantime, enjoy the video, take everything that I've said here to heart, and remember, 2 pages in a week. Thanks much.